The ocean view from my grandmother's beachfront house had always been spectacular. 3 bedrooms, wraparound deck, direct beach access, worth about $800,000 in today's market, maybe more. I'd inherited it 2 years ago when she passed, along with a trust fund she'd quietly built over 40 years of careful investments. Nobody in the family knew about the trust. They just knew I was struggling with credit card debt and a job that barely covered my apartment rent in the city. That's what I let them see. My cousin Marcus saw opportunity. "Listen, I'm trying to help you here," he'd said 3 months ago at a family barbecue. "That beach house is just sitting there. You can't afford the property taxes. You can't afford the maintenance. I know a guy who'd take it off your hands. Cash deal, close in 60 days. I'd stirred my iced tea. "I don't know, Marcus. You don't know." He laughed, loud enough for others to hear. "You're drowning in debt. The bank's probably going to take it anyway. At least this way you walk away with something." My Aunt Linda chimed in. "Marcus has really developed an eye for real estate. He flipped 2 properties last year." 3, Marcus corrected. "Made 40 grand on the last one." I watched him pitch his help to me while Uncle Robert nodded approvingly, and my mother wrung her hands with worry. They all believed the story I'd carefully constructed. The late payments, the collection calls, the financial stress. The truth was different. Grandmother's trust fund generated about $12,000 monthly in dividend income. The beach house was paid off, held in an irrevocable trust with me as the sole beneficiary. The property taxes were automatically paid from the trust. I visited every other weekend, kept it maintained, enjoyed the peace. But I let Marcus think he was rescuing me. "What's your guy offering?" I asked. Marcus pulled out his phone, showed me some numbers. 500,000, cash, quick close. The house was worth at least 800,000. He was planning to flip it for 300,000 profit, minimum. "I need to think about it," I said. "Think fast," Marcus replied. "This buyer's looking at other properties." Over the next month, he increased the pressure. Calls every few days, texts about last chance opportunities. He brought it up at my father's birthday dinner, at my sister's baby shower, at Sunday brunch, always with the family watching, always positioning himself as the successful businessman trying to save his struggling cousin. My mother finally pulled me aside after church one Sunday. "Honey, maybe you should listen to Marcus. He knows what he's doing. You can't keep that house. It's too much for you." I nodded slowly. "Maybe you're right." Marcus nearly jumped when I called him that afternoon. "Smart decision. I'll have my guy draw up the papers." "Your guy?" "The buyer." "Well, technically I'm buying it through my LLC, then selling to him. Standard practice, cleaner that way." So he wasn't even hiding it. He was going to buy my property for 500,000 and immediately flip it for 800,000 or more. "Okay," I said simply. The paperwork came within days. Purchase agreement for $500,000. Closing date set for 45 days out. Marcus's LLC listed as the buyer. I read every page carefully in my apartment. Then I made some calls. First to my grandmother's estate attorney, James Morrison, who'd been managing the trust since her death. "James, I need you to attend a real estate closing for me." "Of course. What's the situation?" I explained Marcus's plan. James was quiet for a moment. "And the property is held in the irrevocable trust your grandmother established?" "Yes, with me as sole beneficiary and trustee. So you have the authority to sell, but any sale would require proper disclosure of the trust ownership to the title company." "Exactly. And your cousin doesn't know about the trust." "Nobody does. You've kept it confidential as I requested." James chuckled softly. "This should be interesting. Send me the closing details." Second call went to my real estate attorney, Patricia Chen, who'd helped me with some rental properties I'd quietly purchased using trust funds. "Patricia, I need you at a closing, and I need you to bring documentation." "What kind of documentation?" "Trust papers, deed verification, title history, the works." Sounds like someone's trying something creative. My cousin's trying to flip my property without realizing I own it free and clear through a trust. Patricia laughed. "Oh, this will be educational. I'll prepare everything." The closing was scheduled at Coastal Title Company, a firm Marcus had used before. He'd specifically requested them, probably figured they'd push the deal through quickly. I didn't tell anyone I was bringing attorneys. The day of closing arrived. Marcus had organized it like a celebration. He'd invited Uncle Robert, Aunt Linda, even my mother. Moral support for the big decision, he texted me. Really, he wanted witnesses to his success. I drove separately and arrived exactly at 2 p.m. The title company's office was in a modern building overlooking the marina, sleek glass and chrome, expensive art on the walls, the kind of place that handles million-dollar transactions daily. Marcus was already in the conference room with the family when I walked in. He wore a suit, had his leather portfolio out, looked every bit the successful real estate investor. There he is. Marcus stood, shook my hand like we were closing a corporate merger. Ready to get this done. Ready, I said quietly. My mother hugged me. It's for the best, sweetie. You'll feel so much better once this weight is off your shoulders. Aunt Linda patted my arm. Marcus will take good care of the property. It's staying in the family, in a way. Uncle Robert just nodded at me, already looking at Marcus with pride. The settlement officer, Margaret Reynolds, entered with a stack of files. Mid-50s, gray suit, reading glasses on a chain, 25 years in title work, according to the credentials on the wall. Good afternoon, everyone. Let's get started. Mr. Marcus Thompson, purchasing through Thompson Holdings LLC, and Mr. David Mitchell, selling the property at 847 Ocean View Drive. That was me, David Mitchell. Quiet, struggling, supposedly desperate David. Marcus spread out his paperwork. Everything's in order. We're doing a cash purchase, $500,000. My financing is confirmed. He glanced at me. This is going to change your life, David. Get you back on your feet. Margaret went through the preliminary documents. Purchase agreement, title search results, closing disclosure, standard procedure. Then she paused, frowned slightly at her computer screen. I need to verify something, she said, fingers moving across her keyboard. The title search shows. This is interesting. Marcus leaned forward. Problem. The property ownership structure. It's showing as trust held. My mother tensed. Trust? What does that mean? Marcus waved dismissively. Probably some old paperwork from when his grandmother died. David inherited it. That's already resolved. Margaret's frown deepened. No, this is an active trust. Irrevocable trust established in 2008, with specific provisions. She looked at me. Mr. Mitchell, you're listed as trustee and sole beneficiary. Yes, I said calmly. Marcus's smile faltered. So what? He can still sell. He's the owner. Technically the trust owns the property. Mr. Mitchell has authority to sell as trustee, but there are disclosure requirements. Margaret clicked through more screens. The trust documentation should have been provided during our title examination. I have copies, I said, reached into my bag, pulled out a folder. That's when James Morrison walked into the conference room. 62 years old, gray hair, three-piece suit, the kind of attorney who'd been handling complex estates since before Marcus was born. James Morrison, representing the Mitchell Family Trust. I'm the estate attorney who established the trust for Mrs. Eleanor Mitchell in 2008. I've been managing it since her passing. Marcus stared. Who is this? My attorney, I said simply. Your attorney. Marcus's voice rose slightly. You don't have attorney money. You can barely make rent. James set his briefcase down, pulled out documents. Miss Reynolds, I believe you'll need these for your closing file. Complete trust documentation, including the original establishment papers, amendment history, and current beneficiary status. Margaret took the papers, started reading. Her expression changed as she processed the information. Aunt Linda looked confused. I don't understand. What's happening? Patricia Chen arrived next. 38, sharp black suit, carrying a leather document case. She'd made partner at her firm by age 35. Patricia Chen, real estate attorney for Mr. Mitchell. I have additional documentation regarding the property. Marcus stood up. This is ridiculous. We have a simple purchase agreement. David wants to sell. I'm buying. Why are there suddenly lawyers? Because, Patricia said calmly, setting down her case. Your purchase agreement is based on incomplete information about the property's value and ownership structure. She pulled out a fresh market analysis. Current fair market value of 847 Ocean View Drive is $850,000, based on 3 comparable sales in the past 60 days. She slid the paper across to Margaret. Your offer of $500,000 represents a 41% discount from market value. The room went silent. Uncle Robert found his voice first. $850,000. Marcus's face flushed. Those comps are inflated. Beach properties are volatile right now. Patricia pulled out another document. Title history shows the property has been held in the Mitchell Family Trust since 2008. Zero mortgage, zero liens, property taxes paid automatically from trust funds. She looked at Marcus. Did you know about the trust when you made your offer? I knew his grandmother left him the house. Did you know about the trust fund that pays all expenses? Marcus said nothing. James spoke up. The Mitchell Family Trust currently holds assets valued at approximately $2.3 million. It generates roughly $12,000 monthly in dividend income. The beach house is one asset among several, all professionally managed. My mother's hand went to her mouth. $2 million. The trust was established to provide long-term financial security for Mrs. Mitchell's descendants. James continued. David, as sole beneficiary and trustee, has complete access to these funds, and has been managing the trust responsibly for 2 years. Aunt Linda looked at me like she'd never seen me before. You have $2 million. The trust does, I said. Grandmother built it over 40 years. Marcus was gripping the edge of the table. You lied. You said you had credit card debt. I have a credit card I use for expenses, I said. I never said I couldn't pay it off. You said you were struggling with rent. I said my job barely covers my rent. It doesn't. The trust income covers my living expenses. I just never clarified that. Margaret was still reading through the trust documents. Mr. Mitchell, why are you selling the property? The trust appears to cover all expenses. I'm not selling, I said simply. The room erupted. Marcus slammed his hand on the table. We have a contract. We have a purchase agreement, Patricia corrected, which can be voided if there's evidence of fraud, misrepresentation, or if the seller was under duress. Duress? I was helping him. You told him the bank was going to take the property. That was false. You said he couldn't afford the taxes. Also false. You pressured him repeatedly in front of family members, creating social pressure. Patricia pulled out her phone. I have several text messages where you told him this was his last chance to avoid financial ruin. James added, there's also the matter of the purchase price. Offering $500,000 for a property worth $850,000 to a person you believed was financially desperate could constitute financial exploitation. Marcus turned to Uncle Robert. Dad, are you hearing this? He's trying to back out of a legal contract. Uncle Robert was staring at me. You let us think you were broke. I let you think what you wanted to think, I said. I never asked for money. I never asked for help. Marcus offered to help me, and I listened to his offer. While secretly planning this ambush with lawyers, I invited my attorneys to a closing. That's standard practice for any significant real estate transaction. Aunt Linda shook her head. This is cruel. Marcus was trying to help you, and you humiliated him. Help me. I looked at Marcus. You were planning to make $350,000 profit by flipping my property. You told me the house was worth $500,000 when you knew it was worth nearly double. You pressured me weekly, used family gatherings to corner me, and specifically chose a closing date and title company that would rush things through. Margaret nodded slowly. Mr. Thompson, did you conduct your own market analysis before making the offer? Marcus's jaw tightened. I knew the neighborhood. Did you know the current market value was $850,000? He said nothing. Patricia leaned forward. You're a real estate investor. You flip properties. You absolutely knew the market value. You saw an opportunity to exploit someone you believed was financially vulnerable. He's family, Marcus said weakly. Which makes it worse, James replied. Elder financial exploitation is a serious issue. In this case, exploiting a younger family member's perceived financial distress for personal profit. Margaret closed her laptop. I can't proceed with this closing. The purchase agreement was based on incomplete disclosure and possible misrepresentation of the property's value. The seller's attorney has indicated intention to withdraw from the contract, and there are questions about whether the buyer conducted adequate due diligence. Marcus turned to me. You planned this. You wanted to embarrass me. I wanted to see how far you'd go, I said. You could have offered fair market value. You could have been honest about the property's worth. You could have asked if I actually needed to sell instead of assuming I was desperate. Everyone thought you were broke, because I don't brag about money. I don't drive a luxury car, or wear expensive clothes, or post about my investments on social media. I live quietly. That's not the same as being poor. My mother was crying softly. David, why didn't you tell us? All this time we worried about you. Because the minute people know you have money, everything changes. People start asking for loans. Family starts expecting handouts. Friends treat you differently. I looked around the room. Grandmother knew that. That's why she made the trust confidential. That's why she set it up to protect me. Uncle Robert stood. Come on, Marcus. We're leaving. The contract is void, Patricia said firmly. My client will not be selling the property. If you attempt to force the sale through litigation, we'll countersue for attempted fraud and file a complaint with the State Real Estate Commission about your business practices. James handed Margaret a card. Please update your records to reflect that any future transactions involving this property must include notice to myself and Miss Chen. We're the attorneys of record for the Mitchell Family Trust. Margaret took the card, noted. Mr. Thompson, I'm returning your earnest money deposit. This closing is cancelled. Marcus grabbed his portfolio. You think you're so smart. You're just a trust fund baby who never worked for anything. Grandmother worked for 40 years to build that trust, I said quietly. She cleaned houses, took in sewing, saved every penny. She built something to protect her family. I'm honoring that by not letting you exploit it, he stormed out. Uncle Robert followed, not looking back. Aunt Linda hesitated at the door. You could have just told him no. You didn't have to humiliate him like this. I told him I needed to think about it. He kept pushing. I told him I wasn't sure. He involved the whole family to pressure me. I never signed anything until today, and I brought my attorneys to protect my interests. That's not humiliation, that's due diligence. She left without responding. My mother stayed wiping her eyes. I feel so foolish. All those times I worried about you. I touched her hand. Mom, I'm sorry I didn't tell you, but I needed to live my own life, not as the rich grandson. I needed to know who my real friends were, which family members cared about me versus caring about money. And now you know. Now I know. Margaret finished her paperwork. Mr. Mitchell, the title company will send you a formal closing cancellation notice within 3 business days. Your property remains titled to the Mitchell Family Trust. Is there anything else you need? No, thank you. I appreciate your thoroughness. She nodded. For what it's worth, you did the right thing. I've seen too many people pressured into bad deals by family members. Sometimes the kindest thing is to let them show their true intentions. James and Patricia walked out with me. In the parking lot, James shook my hand. Your grandmother would be proud. She built that trust specifically to prevent this kind of exploitation. I know. I read her letters. Patricia smiled. That was the most professional property closing ambush I've ever participated in. Congratulations on standing your ground. Thank you both for being here. That's what we're paid for. James got into his car. Call me if Marcus tries anything else. I doubt he will, but family members can be unpredictable when money's involved. I drove back to the beach house that evening, let myself in, walked out to the deck. The sun was setting over the ocean, painting the sky orange and pink, the same view my grandmother had loved for 25 years. My phone buzzed. Text from my younger sister Jessica. Mom told me what happened. Why didn't you tell me about the trust? I called her instead of texting back. Hey, she answered. So you're secretly rich. I'm comfortable. There's a difference. Mom said Marcus tried to rip you off. Marcus saw an opportunity and took it. I just made sure he didn't succeed. Jessica was quiet for a moment. Are you mad at all of us for assuming you were broke? No, I let people assume. That was my choice. But why? I watched the waves roll in. Because grandmother told me something before she died. She said money reveals people's true character. She said the trust was a gift, but it was also a test. To see who loved me for me, and who saw me as an opportunity. That's kind of sad, maybe, but it's honest. So what now? Are you going to tell everyone, eventually, on my terms? Not because someone tried to force my hand. For what it's worth, I would have loved you either way. I know, Jess. That's why you're the first person I'm telling directly. We talked for another 20 minutes. She asked about the trust, the properties, how I'd managed to keep it secret for 2 years. I told her about the separate bank accounts, the modest lifestyle, the careful boundaries. When we hung up, I sat on the deck, until full dark. The ocean sounded peaceful, constant, unchanging. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Marcus. You made me look like a fool in front of my father. I typed back, you did that yourself. I just stopped you from stealing $350,000 from family. It's business. You would have agreed to the price if I hadn't pushed. Which means you were counting on me being desperate enough to accept a lowball offer. That's exploitation, not business. We're done. Don't expect any help from this family again. I never expected help. I expected honesty. You chose differently. He didn't respond after that. Over the next week, the family dynamics shifted. Uncle Robert called once, asked stiffly if I wanted to come to Sunday dinner. I declined politely. Aunt Linda sent a brief email saying Marcus was taking time to process everything. My mother visited the beach house, walked through the rooms, touched grandmother's furniture. She was so proud of this place, Mom said, saved for 12 years to buy it. I know, that's why I'm keeping it. Marcus could have helped you manage it. If you just told him the truth from the start. Mom, Marcus didn't want to help me manage it. He wanted to flip it for profit. There's a difference. She nodded slowly. I suppose I wanted to believe he was being generous. He might have been, if the numbers were different. But $350,000 profit, that's not generosity. That's opportunism. 2 weeks after the failed closing, I got a call from Margaret at the title company. Mr. Mitchell, I wanted to give you a heads up. Marcus Thompson filed a complaint with our office claiming we improperly canceled the closing. Did he? Yes, we've reviewed the file. His complaint was rejected. The closing was properly canceled due to incomplete disclosure and questions about the purchase agreement's validity. But I thought you should know he's still pursuing this. Thank you for letting me know. Also, 3 other people have called asking about the property. I think Marcus has been telling people it's available. I smiled. It's not. That's what I told them. Just wanted to confirm. I hung up and looked out at the ocean. The property was worth $850,000 today. In 5 years, probably over $1 million. In 10 years, maybe $1.5 million. Marcus had tried to buy it for $500,000 and flip it immediately. He would have made generational wealth from a single transaction, exploiting a family member he believed was desperate. Instead, he walked away with nothing but a reputation problem, and a father disappointed that his son's business acumen turned out to be taking advantage of vulnerable people. The beach house stayed in the Mitchell family trust. I visited every other weekend, kept it maintained, watched the property value increase, and nobody in the family asked me for money, because they knew I had attorneys who protected the trust my grandmother built. Sometimes the best protection is simply letting people reveal their own character.